The giant is stumbling, and the cracks are finally too wide to hide with marketing gloss or billionaire charm. Right now, Microsoft is facing a full-blown existential crisis as millions of American users are officially throwing in the towel and walking away from Windows 11 in numbers that have never been seen in the history of personal computing. We are witnessing a mass migration that has reportedly caused Bill Gates to lose his cool behind closed doors, as the empire he built on a foundation of dominance is being rejected by the very people who made it a household name. This isn't just a minor dip in market share or a bit of bad press. This is a fundamental rejection of the Microsoft ideology. People are tired of being treated like products in their own operating systems, and the stunning statistics coming out of the last quarter show that the American public is finally hitting the delete button on Windows. In the next 20 minutes, we are going to explore the catastrophic failure of Windows 11, the secret hardware requirements that backfired, and why the tech world is whispers that Microsoft, as we know it, is effectively fading away. This is the story of how the world's most powerful software company lost the trust of its home market, and why Bill Gates is reportedly in a state of absolute disbelief. To understand why Microsoft is dying in the eyes of the consumer, we have to look at the Windows 11 disaster from the perspective of the average user. When Windows 11 was launched, it was promised as a modern, secure, and productive evolution. But what Americans actually got was a locked-down advertising platform disguised as an operating system. The introduction of the TPM 2.0 requirement was the first stunning blow. It effectively rendered hundreds of millions of perfectly capable PCs obsolete overnight. This wasn't a technical necessity. It was a calculated move to force hardware upgrades in a struggling economy. Americans, notoriously protective of their utility and their wallets, didn't see a secure future. They saw a corporate cash grab. This initial distrust laid the groundwork for the record numbers of departures we are seeing today. Bill Gates, who still holds massive influence over the strategic direction of the company, is reportedly losing it because the metrics of control are failing. For decades, Microsoft's strategy was simple: make Windows the only viable choice for work and home, but they failed to account for the rise of the autonomous user. With the stunning maturity of alternative platforms and the cloud-based nature of modern work, Windows is no longer the essential air we breathe. It has become a clogging filter that users are desperate to remove. The panic in the Microsoft boardroom is real because they have lost the ability to force their will on a population that has finally realized they have options. Why are Americans quitting in record numbers? The answer lies in the ad infestation of the user interface. Imagine buying a car and having the manufacturer put billboards on your dashboard that you can't turn off. That is exactly what Windows 11 has become. From promoted apps in the start menu to news feeds that are actually just clickbait ad links, the OS has become aggressive. Users who value focus and privacy are fleeing to Linux or Mac OS because they feel violated by their own desktop. The stunning reality is that Microsoft stopped treating Windows as a tool and started treating it as real estate for advertisers. This short-term greed is what is causing the long-term fading of the brand. The hardware handcuffs were supposed to be Microsoft's secured perimeter, but they became a great wall that kept users out. According to internal reports, the percentage of users rollbacking to Windows 10 or jumping ship entirely is at an all-time high. Windows 10, despite its flaws, felt like an operating system that stayed out of your way. Windows 11 feels like a nanny state that constantly asks you to sign in to a Microsoft account, nudges you to use Edge, and begs you to subscribe to OneDrive. This desperation in the software design is a stunning indicator of a company that knows its core value proposition is thinning out. Americans are quitting because they want digital peace, and Microsoft is only offering digital noise. Bill Gates is reportedly furious with the engineering direction because the security narrative has been shredded by independent researchers. The stunning irony is that while Microsoft pushed Windows 11 as the most secure Windows ever, the reality of zero-day exploits and kernel vulnerabilities has remained constant. The Apple engineers who exposed the Windows 12 cover-up showed that Microsoft is more interested in monitoring users than protecting systems. When American businesses realized that the TPM requirement didn't actually stop the most common types of data invasions, the corporate exodus began. Small to mid-sized businesses, the lifeblood of the American economy, are moving to cloud-native Chrome OS or Linux mini PCs to avoid the Windows 11 headache. Let's talk about the gaming community, which was once Microsoft's silver bullet. Windows was the only place to play. But with the stunning success of the Steam Deck and Valve's Proton layer, gaming on Linux has become not just possible, but in many cases, preferable. Gamers in America are notoriously sensitive to system overhead. When they saw that Windows 11 was siphoning resources for telemetry and background services, they started looking for the exit. The fact that you can now play almost any AAA title on a Linux distribution with zero tracking is the final nail for many high-power users. Microsoft's dominance in gaming is fading faster than anyone predicted. The stunning part of the Microsoft is dying narrative is the financial cannibalization. To keep their growth numbers high for Wall Street, Microsoft has been squeezing their existing users for subscription revenue. This has alienated the loyalists. People who have used Windows since the 95 and XP days are now being told they don't truly own their software. This philosophical shift has caused a massive cultural pushback in the United States. Americans have a deep-rooted belief in ownership rights, and Microsoft's push toward Windows as a service feels like a direct attack on those values. Bill Gates' vision of a connected future is being perceived as a vision of total surveillance, and the resulting panic is shaking the company to its foundation. In the Silicon Valley echo chambers, the talk is all about the post-Windows era. Microsoft's leadership, including Satya Nadella, has been trying to pivot the company toward AI and Azure because they know the desktop is a sinking ship. But you can't build a sky-high AI empire on a rotten foundation. If Windows fails, the on-ramp to all of Microsoft's other services disappears. That is why Bill Gates is losing it. He sees the ecological collapse of the Windows environment. Without the desktop monopoly, Microsoft loses its leverage over the world's data. This is a stunning reversal of fortune for a company that once faced antitrust suits for being too powerful. Now they are facing market irrelevance for being too intrusive. The record numbers of Americans quitting Windows 11 are also a result of the interface sabotage. Microsoft simplified the taskbar and the right-click menu, but in doing so, they stunned the power users. They took away functionality and replaced it with aesthetics that nobody asked for. For a professional in New York or a developer in Austin, every second counts. When Microsoft hides commonly used features behind extra clicks to make the OS look clean, they are insulting the intelligence of their user base. This form-over-function approach has driven generations of professionals to macOS, where the interface actually respects the user's workflow. Microsoft is dying not by a single blow, but by 1,000 small cuts. Each forced update that breaks a printer, each hidden setting that re-enables tracking, and each unfiltered ad in the weather app is a cut. Americans are quitting because they have reached their limit for malfunction. The stunning lack of quality control in recent Windows 11 builds has made the OS feel fragile. In a world where we rely on our computers for survival, people cannot afford an unstable foundation. The Linux revolution in the US is growing because Linux doesn't change the rules on you in the middle of the night. What is the Bill Gates solution to this crisis? According to leaked internal strategic papers, Microsoft is considering making Windows 12 completely free but with a mandatory data harvesting agreement. This is the nuclear option. They want to buy back the market share by giving away the OS. But the stunning realization for the executive team is that free isn't enough anymore. People are willing to pay for privacy. They are willing to pay for stability. The American consumer has evolved, but Microsoft is stuck in the 90s strategy of forced bundling. This mismatch is why the Windows 11 quitting rate is skyrocketing. We have to look at the education sector as well. For years, Microsoft owned the classroom, but Google's Chromebooks and Apple's iPads have exposed the weaknesses of Windows in learning environments. American students are growing up without Windows fluency. To them, Windows 11 looks clunky, slow, and complicated. This generational handover is stunningly bad for Microsoft's long-term survival. They are losing the future in record numbers. Bill Gates, who has spent billions on education initiatives, is reportedly in despair over the fact that his own brand is being expelled from schools by choice, not by force. The stunning decline of Windows Phone was the first warning, but Microsoft didn't listen. They thought they could hunker down on the desktop and be safe forever. But the mobile-first world has bled into the professional world. Everything that made Windows Mobile a failure, the lags, the bloat, the confusion, is now present in Windows 11. Americans are quitting because they have better experiences on their phones than they do on their workstations. This experience gap is the silent killer of Microsoft's relevance. There is a stunning rumor that Microsoft might pivot to a Linux-based kernel for a future version of Windows just to stop the bleeding. But would that even save the company? At that point, Microsoft would just be a desktop environment provider, not an OS architect. They would lose the power to control the hardware layer. For Bill Gates, this would be a total surrender. The panic in his inner circle is about maintaining the illusion of control while the real power evaporates. The Windows 11 exodus is proof that the illusion has shattered. The stunning technical truth is that Windows is legacy code wrapped in modern makeup. Some parts of the Windows 11 kernel still date back to the NT architecture of the early 90s. It is a house of cards held together by billions of lines of patchwork. When the US government dropped Windows for Linux, as we discussed in previous reports, it was because they tested the foundation and found it unsound. If the government can't trust it, why should the American public? The record numbers of users quitting are simply following the lead of those who know the most about system safety. Microsoft is dying because it lost its identity. Is it a software company, a cloud company, an advertising agency? By trying to be everything for everyone, it became nothing for anyone. Windows 11 is the physical embodiment of this identity crisis. It tries to be a tablet OS, a desktop OS, and an AI assistant all at once, and it fails at all three. The stunning simplicity of Linux Mint or federal operating systems is attracting Americans who just want a computer that is a computer. This return to simplicity is the greatest threat to Microsoft's complexity-based revenue model. Let's talk about the Microsoft Store. It was supposed to be the safe haven for apps, but it is a stunning wasteland of scam software and outdated packages. When Americans see that they can't even find reliable software in the official store, they lose confidence in the entire ecosystem. This broken trust leads to the record-quitting numbers we see in the latest reports. Bill Gates' vision of a curated world has become a junkyard of fragmented experiences, and the public is tuning out. The stunning rise of vertical integration at Apple has also exposed Microsoft's weak side. Apple makes the chip, the computer, and the OS. Everything works in harmony. Microsoft has to beg 1,000 different hardware partners to support Windows 11. The result is a stunningly inconsistent experience. One user in Chicago has a perfect experience, while another in Miami has constant blue screens. This inconsistency is fading the reliability of the Windows brand. Americans who value efficiency are quitting because they are tired of the lottery of Windows compatibility. Satya Nadella is reportedly pushing for even more AI integration to fix the Windows problem. But the stunning reality is that AI is not an OS. You can't AI your way out of a bad kernel. You can't AI your way out of user distrust. The Bill Gates panic is rooted in the knowledge that Microsoft is out of tricks. The Windows 11 cover-up and the hardware gimmicks have failed. The American public is moving on to systems that don't talk back, don't track, and don't charge a monthly fee just to exist. As we look at the horizon, the Microsoft empire looks stunningly vulnerable. The peak of Windows is long gone. What we are seeing now is the long tail of a fading star. The record numbers of Americans quitting Windows 11 are just the front line of a global trend. People want digital sovereignty. They want to own their machines. They want privacy. And Microsoft, in its current state, is unable to provide those things. The stunning discovery of the Linux alternative is spreading through word of mouth across every state in the Union. In the end, Microsoft is dying because it forgot the first rule of business: respect the customer. By forcing Windows 11 on people, by hiding ads in the start menu, and by locking down hardware, they broke the contract. The Bill Gates loss of control is just the emotional reflection of a cold economic reality. Windows is no longer the future. It is the burden of the past, and Americans are unburdening themselves in record numbers. The stunning transition has begun, and the digital world will never be the same. The exposed cover-ups, the US government exit, and the user revolt are all converging into a perfect storm. Microsoft can panic, but they cannot reverse the momentum of freedom. The stunning truth is that computing is escaping the corporate cage. Whether you switch to Mac, jump to Linux, or stick with a hardened Windows 10, the message is clear. The Windows 11 experiment has failed, and the market has spoken. Stay informed, stay autonomous, and don't let a billionaire's panic dictate your digital life. The Windows 11 record numbers are a sign of hope. A sign that the user is still powerful. The giant is falling, and it is stunning to watch. The record quitting isn't a tragedy. It's an opportunity for something better to take its place. Welcome to the post-Microsoft world. It's bright, it's open, and it's finally yours. The XB-1 supersonic flight is impressive, but to me there are basically four major points to consider when evaluating Boom's prospects. 1. How hard is it to develop a commercial aircraft? 2. How hard is it to develop a commercial jet engine?